Jerusalem, let's bounce to Washington, D.C., because staying with the same theme for a moment, David Smith, who's the Guardian Bureau Chief, is there. David, great to talk to you tonight. Reports in the past 24 hours, I'm sure, you switch on pretty much most of the US networks now, talking about reports of this plan by the Trump administration, quote, to move 1 million Palestinians from Gaza to Libya. Tell us about that.
That's right. This is an NBC News report, which certainly has been some pushback from the State Department and White House about. But apparently, according to this report, the White House has been in talks with leaders in Libya about a plan to relocate up to 1 million Palestinians from Gaza. And in return, the US would agree to unfreeze billions of dollars of Libyan funds. They've been frozen, of course, since the uprising against Gaddafi and the civil war that followed about 14 years ago. Since when, of course, there's been a civil war. Libya still has two competing rival governments. Now, all of this fits with what we've been hearing from Donald Trump in recent weeks and months about his idea of redeveloping Gaza, putting it under US control even, turning it into what he called a Riviera of the Middle East. He said that at a press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu in the last few days. He's reiterated that idea of turning Gaza into a freedom zone. Initially, there was talk of moving Palestinians to Egypt or Jordan. Again, neither country was really happy with that idea. So now Libya comes up, but I think still all sorts of problems and objections to this. There's the moral objection that many would say this is frankly tantamount to ethnic cleansing, and already there's been criticism of it from leaders of Hamas. And also on a logistical and practical level, moving 1 million people by road or plane would be extremely difficult and expensive.
Very interesting also that President Trump, who probably tweets, I think AI have worked out, probably a small novel every single month, hasn't mentioned anything about Libya yet.
No, indeed. He's been pretty busy on social media, talking about everything from Taylor Swift to Bruce Springsteen, and certainly pushing his legislation with Republicans in Congress. But he doesn't appear to have tackled this one yet. Yeah, certainly the White House National Security Council and the State Department both said these reports are untrue. So we shall have to see how this one pans out.
Yeah, it gets very, very personal in some of these messages. It goes into a detail that you do wonder for a president there must be questions about. On particularly Bruce Springsteen, as you say, he called him, quote, dumb as a rock. He couldn't see what was going on, or could he? He's dried out prune of a rocker, commas. His skin is all atrophied. That was President Trump in the last 24 hours. Let me also talk to you about a scandal. What's in the message, the seashells on the seashore. This is the Instagram photo. Let's take a look. 8647, put out by the former FBI chief James Comey, something he'd seen on the beach, he said. It ended up with US Secret Services at his door, alleged to be encouraging violence against President Trump. President Trump has told news reporters that 86, this number is slang for to assassinate, to get rid of, and 47, that's his presidency, the 47th president. Let's take a listen to him.
Exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
A child knows what it means, David. Is that what it means?
Well, James Comey, who of course is a former FBI director and was fired by Donald Trump in 2017, although a lifelong Republican, he acknowledges that he does know this was a political message, he says, one about getting rid of something, and that's the supposed code of 86. There's much dispute over the origins of that phrase. Perhaps it dates back to the Prohibition era when there was a bar on 86 Barrow Street at an exit that people were thrown out, but other theories as well. James Comey denies that he thought it was any connection to violence or assassination, but he did delete the post. Interestingly, Republicans and Trump supporters have previously bought T-shirts that had 8646 written on them, which was code for getting rid of or impeaching Joe Biden when he was president. But in any case, this has been seized on by Trump, as you heard there, and many of his allies. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, saying Comey should be put behind bars. Reports now that Comey has been interviewed by the Secret Service with regard to this. So I'm sure this one will continue to run.
David, always a pleasure to speak to you. You can see what from his team, for example, why they might be concerned, given that there had been assassination attempts. But as you say, his own team had previously warned, including Matt Gaetz, the former Attorney General nominee. He tweeted as well, we'd 86th Joe Biden. So it has been used many times before. Pleasure, as always. David Smith, the Guardian Bureau Chief in Washington, D.C. We'll be back with a